Okay, we'd like to ask you some questions. First of all, Mr. Ross, you represent a group of North American investors owning, if I don't make a mistake, 19% of the Bank of Cyprus. What's your vision for the bank and the bank system of Cyprus in general, having in mind the last year difficulties?
Well, I think the difficulties of last year are obviously a big hurdle to overcome, but I think that outsiders are aware that it was really the problem of the Greek sovereign and the Greek country's collapse that led to the problems in Cyprus. And I think people no longer blame the Cyprus banks themselves for the bail-in. It was really the Troika that imposed that on the country and on the depositors. So lately, deposits have been coming back in, including some new deposits from depositors who unfortunately had been bailed in. So I think people are gradually getting over that problem, as horrible as it was.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One of the biggest challenges the Bank of Cyprus is facing is stress tests by the European Central Bank and the asset quality review of the continent's largest lenders. Would you like to comment on these prospects?
Yes, the bank right now has 15.6% Tier 1 capital ratio, which is one of the very highest in Europe. So it could withstand even a fairly large amount of stress. But my hope is that it will pass the AQR and we will get that hurdle behind us. My biggest worry about it is that because of the confusion over the new foreclosure regime, that may be a negative in view of the stress test people, and that could make a problem for the bank.
Okay, but you are optimistic.
Oh, I'm very optimistic. I think that ultimately there will be a reasonable foreclosure regime. I think ultimately there will be a reform to the bankruptcy system in Cyprus, and I think longer term Cyprus' outlook as a country is very good, both from a tourist point of view, from a business service point of view, and from the point of view of the importance of the natural gas offshore. So I think the long-term outlook for Cyprus is very good, and because Bank of Cyprus is such a big factor in the economy, if the economy does well, Bank of Cyprus will have to do well, and I think both the bank and the economy are tied to each other. Neither one will do well unless both do well.
Okay, so your investment in Bank of Cyprus is only the beginning of your future investments on the island?
Yes, we're interested in seeing if there are more opportunities now that we've become familiar with Cyprus, with its people, with its government, and with its business economy. So we are very interested to see if there are other situations in which we could invest. And I know the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is also very interested to do more in Cyprus.
Such as in what field?
Well, we're looking at a variety of things. As you know, there are a number of entities being privatized by the government, and some of those might be very interesting as they come along. And so we're open to ideas, and lots of people in Cyprus have been providing us with ideas as to potential investments that we could make there.
Okay. Next month, Bank of Cyprus shares are due to restart trading in the Cyprus stock market. Do you believe that the bank should be in talks, for example, with the London Stock Exchange and Euronext NYSE about moving its secondary listing from Greece to the UK?
Yeah, we've been giving very serious thought to the possibility of either Euronext or the London Exchange. I believe that the bank meets the requirements for those listings, and so it would not replace the listing in Cyprus and the listing in Athens, but it would supplement it and would make it more convenient for international investors to join with Cypriots in owning the stock.
Mm-hmm. What is your message to the Bank of Cyprus depositors and shareholders who are concerned about the future of the bank?
Well, I think the time for worrying about the future is largely behind us. The fact that many international investors, including ourselves, recently committed 1 billion euros to the Bank of Cyprus is a tremendous vote of confidence both in the bank and in the country. I believe that's the largest single foreign direct investment in the whole history of Cyprus. So I think Cypriots should be proud that even though there was this horrible crisis in 2013, international investors have confidence in the future of the bank and in the future of the country. So we are going to be doing the best we can to get the value of the stock up, and that's the best way for the bailed-in victims to recoup the money that was lost in the crisis.
Mm-hmm. And my last question, your investment in Cyprus is an issue of great interest and discussion amongst all financial and political factors on the island. Comment please on your view of the future of the Cyprus economy and the measures taken or those needed to be taken further in order to gain back growth.
Well, I'm not a politician, but I'll give you my business point of view. Mm-hmm. I do think that something like the foreclosure regime recommended by the Troika really is needed, because there are strategic defaulters who could pay, who have the ability to pay, but who are playing games because they know they can't be foreclosed. That's not fair, it's not right, and it should be done away with. What we don't need, and I think what we won't have, is massive foreclosures, because the bank knows, and any good bank knows, that if you have a borrower who is willing to pay what they can afford, but maybe what they can afford is a little less than the original, well, then the right thing to do is to modify the loan. In Ireland, when the new regime was put in, people were frightened there would be massive foreclosures. Well, at Bank of Ireland, we restructured 100 times as many loans as were foreclosed. So there were a few foreclosures. Unfortunately, sometimes there's no alternative, but the vast majority of borrowers did not get foreclosed. Many of them got modifications, and 80% of the modifications that we made stayed in place and performed well on into the future. So the first thing we need is that. We need a simplification of the bankruptcy system, particularly in the corporate side. But then on the more affirmative side of things, I think the privatizations are a very, very good idea. They will reduce the indebtedness of the sovereign, and chances are that private sector will be able to manage the businesses more efficiently. And if you lowered the cost of electricity, and if you lowered the cost of telephones, you will be making the economy of Cyprus more efficient, and it will also help the citizens because it will mean their bills are lower. I also think the privatization of the seaports and the airports is also a good job, because tourism excuse me, is such an important part of the economy. And you look at what has happened in Greece, where the Greek government sold the Piraeus port to a Chinese group, and it's now booming. So I think that those are steps the government could take that would be very, very good for the economy. I think also the idea of the tender for the big new luxury casino and hotel development is another good idea, because it provides yet another tourist attraction besides the antiquities, the ruins, the wonderful beaches, the mountains, all the wonderful tourist attractions that Cyprus already has. So I think there are many, many things underway, not the least of which is the prospect for the natural gas offshore. That alone could be transformative to the entire Cypriot economy. And then hopefully at some point in time we'll have some form of reunification of the island, and I think that too would be a very favorable factor. So I think that while Cyprus has had an enormous trauma that has inflicted terrible hardships on lots of innocent people, I think the future looks extremely good, but people need to be a little bit patient and need to get their confidence back.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Mr. Ross, and I hope that you are here to stay for many years in Cyprus.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it.
Okay, bye.